Welcome to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who spent 21 years in the mortgage business asking one simple question: why does this industry always feel like there's something hiding behind the curtain? He's a branch manager, a builder, and someone who created his own shorthand for what he wants out of a company: opportunities, autonomy, and transparency. Chris Murray, welcome to the Lowdown.
Connor, thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to being here.
Absolutely, man. It's great to have you on once and for all, right? We talked about this a long time ago, and now here we are.
Long time coming.
So thanks for joining me, man. And I'm just going to jump right into it. So you are the original creator of the OAT. You coined the acronym OAT: opportunities, autonomy, and transparency. Walk me through where that came from. Like, was there a specific moment that made you realize that those three things were non-negotiables for you?
Well, I guess the simple answer is experience, right? I would say that I'm the type of person that, wakes up, got my goals, for the day and what I'm trying to achieve. And I'm not, honestly, I'm not looking to cause trouble. I'm not a whiner and a complainer, and I just do my thing, right? I just want to do my thing, and I want to do it well, and then whatever. But then you have certain things that might happen that might trigger some things. And then you start to look at it and you go, you know what? Now I feel like I'm being stupid if I don't look at this a little bit further. Right. And, the whole OAT thing actually just came out of a conversation that was led by some frustration. And, I just said to my business partner, I go, when you really break this down and where I think about where I've been and where I want us to go and blah, 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 like I just, when I look at what a mortgage company needs to do for its originators, I'm like, literally to me, it's like three things. I just want three things. I just want to be able to, get some opportunities. I'm not looking for them to do my job for me. But if there's some things within it that can cultivate some opportunities and things like that's what I want. And, I want the autonomy. I want to be able to make those decisions when they happen, because I can't be waiting, 4 hours before a closing to get an approval on a concession. Like, we got to move, people got to get their stuff. And then the transparency, to your point of when we started, the transparency side of, I've always kind of felt like there's, this industry is riddled with feeling like we're, in the movie Wizard of Oz, right? Like, I always feel like there's somebody in the background, some whatever, just like playing with levers and, telling us what can and can't, or honestly, half the time you don't even know. Right. And I just, it was really those three things kind of born out of a little bit of frustration, where I wanted to, really find more, do more, be more efficient, and kind of lead the charge on what we're doing from an operational standpoint.
Yeah. And I mean, I know it can be difficult to kind of sift through it all. Originators, branch managers, anybody who's doing strong production is getting just pounded by recruiters all day long. And, I hear from a lot of people, like a lot of times it can sound like just the same old, stuff, right? Like, what is in your estimation, like, what does a pitch need to include for it to stand out, to where it might get someone who's comfortable to pay attention?
I don't know. And honestly, this is probably a lot of just life in general, right? Or sales in general. It kind of reminds me of that. What's that thing where they say, like, hey, sell me this pen? And then everybody goes into like, oh, well, the pen's amazing and blah, blah, blah. Well, what if I don't need a pen? What if I never write? What if I don't have hands? You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's part of the thing, right? Like, I feel like we're so accustomed to being like, hey, we've got great rates. We're awesome people. We've got this, we've got that, we've got this. And it's just like, well, if that's not calling to me and either what I'm looking for or what my frustrations are or what I'm trying to fix or get better with, like, it's a one ear, not the other. Right. So I think we need to be better in that regard. I think we need to be better at listening and asking questions, because we need to understand what's really driving that individual. Right now, hopefully we've aligned ourselves with a company that we feel like is going to be able to offer what everyone is looking for. Right. And I say everyone in the sense, but everything is not a fit for everyone. Right. So, those things are going to shift a little bit. But I think by and large, if you spend the time to make sure that you're aligning with a place that, again, I'll just throw it out there again, is giving you that level of the OAT, that if you're calling on your own experience and saying, hey, you know what, if I feel this way, there's probably a bunch of other people that feel this way, then, I think that's where you can have some, some real commonality.
Yeah. So I want to talk about a time that I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this show experienced, where you had loans falling from the sky in 2020, 21. You're doing more business than you could have ever really probably imagined. And you shared with me kind of offline that during that time there was a moment where like the phone would ring and you would go, like, do I want to answer it, like, and almost felt like there was this push and pull of, should I even go there? Like, what does an experience like that teach you about building a business the right way?
Yeah, it was, it was really, really eye opening, because it was incredibly, I don't know if bittersweet's the word, probably honestly, maybe confusing, because yeah, we were so many, we were all busy, right? It was just crazy. There was refis and purchases and just everything was just wild rates, where they were. And, but it got to a point where I fully felt the brunt of not having the right system to, to take care of scaling and the volume, right? Because it got to a point where I felt so much personal weight on my own shoulders. Sure, really great problem to have, right? Oh, poor you, you had more business than you could deal with. But honestly, it really was so much pressure, right, to try to get these things done. So yeah, to that point, it was like, man, the thought of doing another loan right now with all the other stuff that I feel like I'm worrying about, oh my, like I don't know that I could fit anymore. I'm just going to fall right through the ground, and that was such an such a confusing, annoying, and taxing feeling at that time. And because if you had asked me before, I'd be like, I want to scale, I want to scale, I want to keep getting better, I want to keep doing good things, and it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually build the infrastructure and the foundation around you. Because I recognized very quickly during that period of time that I was not ready for it, right? I did not have the foundation. I could only be, I could only do so much within, call it a 24-hour day with a little sleep mixed in, right? And, so it was very eye opening at that time to say, you know what, you've got to try to build smart. You've got to do what you can to find the right culture fit with team members and all those kinds of things that align with the way that you attack the business. And, and over the last few years, call it, we've really done exactly that. We've got a team around us that, you know, as I say, they don't want to, just like how I feel, they're not going to put their head on a pillow until they know it's done, right? Until it's been done right. And that's not the expectation that everybody's perfect. But I think there's a certain level of integrity that you go about your job, that you need to align yourselves with people that feel that way too. And honestly, that's how you scale. That's how you get better. That's how you build community and culture, and people don't feel like they're out on an island somewhere. So it's yeah, it was very eye opening, and I feel good. Not that we're where we even want to be, right? But I know we're a lot better served having gone through through that period of time. Sometimes pain is good, so
Yeah.
it definitely taught us a lot.
So what was that first step that you took? Because I know you've built what you would call kind of a grand central station inside your branch, but what was the first step towards kind of building in that relief and that structure?
It was, it's interesting because there's always, I'm going to say always, but a lot of the time, I've always seen it. There's like this tug of war between sales and operations, right? And I've that honestly, it's never made any sense to me, because you have, let's say, on one side of the spectrum, you've got a salesperson that's going, this company exists because I bring in loans. If I don't bring in loans, you don't have a job. And it's like, well, on the other side, you've got on the other side of the spectrum, it's like, well, that's all well and good, but how do you plan to get them to the closing table? Sorry, can't do that without me, right? And it's like, wait a minute, why are I got an idea? How about we treat each other with the mutual respect that we deserve, and try to build a system that allows each person to go about their job as efficiently as possible? How about we try that? And So that whole thing never really made sense to me. I like to think that my relationship with processors and underwriters and things like that over the years has been very positive, and it truly has, right? I've had to go through processor changes and stuff like that, and I don't have those problems. Right? And again, it's not to say every system's perfect, and I'm not going to project that. But at the same point, we get through it. We figure out what we got to figure out because I respect the job you do. You respect the job me do. We get bit more with sugar than whatever the saying is. Like, really means something, right? And I think ultimately the people that you're working with appreciate that.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do between the loan officers and the operations and building in sort of that grand central station to make sure that we're staying efficient. It's so super important because even if honestly, we were talking about this morning, we have our person, the grand central station, right? And it's one thing to go to the loan originators and say, hey guys, we've got this grand central station. You get an application, boom, 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 contract, move it on, right? Move it on. Now you go back to selling. Well, that's good, but only if Grand Central Station feels good. Because if Grand Central Station don't feel good, sooner or later it's coming back to the originator, or Grand Central Station's going to be like, screw this, I'm out of here. Right? This is terrible. Right? And then on the other side, you've got processing and underwriting that's going to feel it too. Right? So to me, it literally just takes looking at each step of that process and make sure no one's got too much stress. Like, we need a bridge that is nice and stable and nobody feels, look, there's enough stress in this industry, right? Just naturally, right? So if we can build in those efficiencies, all of that stuff is a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a branch now of 11. You've got a hybrid kind of realtor, mortgage person, someone who's bilingual. So you've got
Yeah.
a lot going on in your branch and a lot of diversity there. What's the profile that you look for when you're going to add someone new? And, how do you share the OAT story with someone who's considering a change?
So, it's funny. I go back to spend a lot of years in athletics. So I'm a little biased to the things that I've learned during that period of time, right? Working through baseball my entire life and the training and the just all of it. College baseball, trying to go to the next level, like the whole thing, right? And I think about, all the guys that I played with and, just everything, right? And the one thing that it taught me is, and especially being a pitcher, right? We were talking about it the other day, and Adam, my business partner, was a tennis guy, right? And I was a pitcher, third base, but especially on the mound, it takes a little different twist on the mound. And I go, you know what, Adam? How many times did you get the shit kicked out of you on the tennis court, right? How many times did I get my butt lit up on the mound? What choice do you have? Do you run away? I'd say, okay, throw my glove in the air and run off the field, or do I dig in? Right? Do I dig in? Do I figure it out? Do I get better? Do I figure out where I screwed up? Should have thrown a slider there instead of a fastball, whatever the case might be, right? But it's me. I've got to look in the mirror. Yeah, I got eight guys around me and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to what I'm doing on the field for myself, what do I got to do better? Right? And the diversity is cool, right? I think that builds a really cool branch, with the bilingual and different geographic areas and all that kind of stuff is awesome. There's one common thread that honestly I would say that we need, and it's all the things that you can't teach, right? I get out of bed, I work my butt off, I'm accountable. It's not if, it's when you're running the problems. Are you going to figure them out? You can't disappear, right? You can't be one of those people that a realtor or a borrower is going, oh my God, I can't find this person. They just disappeared and we need to figure it out. We're trying to close tomorrow. Like you can't, it's just, and it's so prevalent in our industry because no one wants to deliver bad news, right? But, we have one going on right now. We've got a situation where we ran into an issue with a condo. It's the first deal with a new realtor firm, right? It's not necessarily anything, we didn't do anything wrong, right? We didn't do nothing wrong. But the fact of the matter is the loan couldn't close on time because we're dealing with a particular HOA and they just got a different way of doing things, right? So sure, I got to be the bearer of bad news. I got to be the messenger Say, look, we've been at this, as you know, right? We didn't blindside anybody. But the fact of the matter is, nobody else but me was going to say, we've got to make the call. We've got to push closing, right? Now, that's a frustrating conversation, but you got to do it, right? If you're going to lead with integrity and you're going to lead with, I'm your business partner here, I get it. We're going to get through it. Like, you got to have that moxie behind you because this is just a very imperfect industry, always, probably always will be. That's the one thing, the one, I'll call it non-negotiable, that we need to have amongst all of our people in this branch. They have to be accountable. They have to want to work hard. They've got to represent themselves and us well. And, that's just something, everybody's going to have different styles of business. They're going to have their little ways of going about things. And maybe they're focusing on this particular type of community or second homes or whatever the case is. That's all fine. That's just loan stuff, right? You get through all that. But we can't have any whiners. No whiners. Get to it, get it done.
Now, I think that's great. And you had mentioned to me that 2018, you had this light bulb moment where you kind of came to this realization that the engine that wins the race is the one that gets to the customer first, right? And finds a way to get there and at the time of home ownership or home search, right? And get up there early on. And you've locked into a platform like that. What took the industry so long to build something like that? And what do you see the benefits?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we're sitting around, I feel like it was yesterday, we're sitting around the table and, there's a bunch of us loan officers at the company and we're like, oh, what's working for you? One of those mastermind type moments and, what's working for you and what are you seeing and blah, 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 like one of those conversations. And I said at that time, I'm like, obviously customer experience is always important. And at that time, I said, I just only see that becoming all that much more important because competition is going to get that much more heavy. And I'm not necessarily like, don't worry about your competition and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm not, but I'm also looking to secure as many loans and as many customers as we can. So what are the dynamics there? And at that time, I want to say they still went by like, Quicken or whatever. And I'm like, look at them, right? You think that's going to go back in time? Like, no way. Like, if anything, that's only going to get heavier and bigger and brighter and all those things and all the money they're going to spend and all that kind of stuff. So what does that say? Like, we got to win the race to the customer, right? We have to figure out a way. Like, yeah, we have our realtor partners and financial advisors, and obviously that'll, the personal relationships is always key. But we also need to figure out how do we win the race to the customer? Because number one, we don't want to lose somebody. And number two, how do we find people that maybe we wouldn't have necessarily found before? But ultimately, because we're now dealing with not just our neighbors as competition, now we're dealing with someone in the middle of nowhere is our competition. And, at that moment, you go, all right, where do I start? How do I win the race against a big giant company that's got a lot more money than I do to spend on marketing and everything else, right? So, during that kind of time, I'm like, I can't necessarily say I'm a techie. I'm not a complete, bozo on it. You know what I mean? But like, when you're still worried about your day to day and getting loans closed, I can't necessarily say we also went full fledged figuring out how we're gonna, deal in that space. But you do little things, right? Like, oh well, you know what? Maybe we'll start doing Facebook ads, and maybe we'll do this, and maybe there's a way to do that, and you kind of do everything, but everything you end up kind of going like, it was all right, I guess, whatever. But the mindset didn't change. That like, yes, it's continuing to evolve, right? Better, rocket, and this, that, and the other. It just continues to gain steam. And it's funny because during that conversation, I was saying to a coworker of mine, I said, like your son is 16 years old. This is again like 2018 or whatever. And I said, like in let's say 10 years or so, when he goes to buy his first house, like what experience is he going to expect? I'm like, literally, he's just been living his life going like this. Like that's all he knows. So like, how is that going to translate into what we do? And again, that race to the customer was a thing. And what really, and we can go into why lower a little bit, like why are we here at lower and why did we make that choice to come here? Well, it's funny how things kind of come full circle in a little bit. And, they have the platform that we need to get loans done every day, right? With with the autonomy and the transparency that we need. We've got the ability to make the business decisions, do mortgage stuff, right? Do what we got to do to win deals and fight for tomorrow and get this deal to closing and worry about our own operational branch staff and what's it costing us and how much revenue do we have coming in, like all those things that you need from an autonomy and a transparency perspective, right? So cross off the A and the T. It was about the opportunity. And the opportunity was squarely made my eyes go gigantic was the fact that Lower bought Movoto. And the fact that Lower bought Movoto, my head went right back to 2018. And I go, holy crap. This is what I was talking about in 2018. And I didn't have to spend the money to do it. Right? Like they did it. Right? And it's not necessarily the first time, right? Like Rocket and I think Redfin did their little thing, but this is Lower's version of now winning that race to the customer. Why won't that company now own that lead engine? Right. And so now what it's done for us is it does a couple things, right? Because you could look at it just in that race to the customer itself, right? And that's great, right? And it's an online lead source. It's what it is, right? You got to sift through. You got to make separate relationships. It's cold-ish, right? But what it's done is it's helped really solidify current relationships and open the door to others. Because that dynamic of the conversation with our agent partners and new agents that we are trying to get in touch with, it's changed the game, right? Because talking about being the same old story. Hey, Connor, I'm a loan officer. You've probably talked to 40 of them earlier today. And just like them, I've got great rates. We've got great programs. I'm a super guy and you want to use me because I'm just going to tell you.
Answer your phone.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, Chris seems like an all right guy, but I already used Mary and I just talked to 40 others that sounded just like he did. Now we go into, you know what, let's become a partner here, right? Let's look at how we can drive, how we can find opportunities by generating not only the lead, but let's generate the conversion, right? Through the Lower Connect platform. Now we're not just saying, here, hope they work out. We're going, let's figure out a system together that's going to allow us to up the conversion. You're doing more business. We're doing more business. Hopefully now you see us as a real valued partner. So when you've got that organic deal now, not tied to Movoto, you're going, well, of course I want to send this to Chris and his team, right? They kick butt. They do everything. I don't need to worry. I know how they operate, right? So that race to the customer, that lead engine and the platform behind it, to just get mortgages done, to me, it was a home run for that very reason.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I know we talked a little bit about, you were less than 20 days in with a referral partner kind of through this platform.
We're about 25 days in now. Yeah, about 25 days in now. Lots of leads, lots of follow up. We've got pre-approvals rolling. We've got 3 under contract. Like things are rolling, right? It's rolling and it's great. The feedback, we're constantly asking feedback because we want to know how these things look from the realtor perspective too, right? And that most, I guess as of right now, not to misspeak Movoto, but our understanding is that Movoto right now is leading with about 67 or 68% live transfers being rolled to the realtor. And the understanding that based on the feedback I've received is that the live transfer, the buyer or potential buyer has come with a lot of intent, right? In other words, they know what they're doing. They know why they're on the phone. They know who they're talking to. They know why they're talking to them, right? It's not like, well, I didn't click anything and I don't know who are you? I don't even know why you're calling me, like that kind of thing. Based on the realtor feedback, it's been really, really strong, which for us in continuing to value that platform with our partners and everything, that feels really good because now we know we're not just selling something that doesn't have any sauce behind it, So it's it's been really exciting. I mean, we're nearing about 90 days here at Lower overall, and it's been incredibly positive.
That's phenomenal, man. So, listen, as we wrap up, and we're lucky to have you, by the way. I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to reflect a little bit. You've been in this business over 20 years. When you think back to the version of Chris Murray who walked into a real estate office at 23 years old, scared out of his mind, like what would you most want to tell that guy?
It's funny. I think be yourself, right? Don't feel like you need to don't feel like you need to know everything at every moment. One, I think we all kind of know more than we give ourselves an opportunity to recognize we know. And two, like you're resourceful. Go get the answers, right? Like be yourself. All we can control is we get up, we work hard, want to do whatever we can to make people happy. Like lead with that, right? Like that is even just that is a separator, right? And then as gain steam in the industry, you're going to learn more, you're going to do more, you know how to get the answers. But then also I would say that, one of the biggest triggers in my career was also aligning with someone who knew more than me, had seen more than me, changed my perspective in certain ways, so I really value learning, being coached, in some respects, because there's a certain thing of not having to recreate the wheel, right? In a lot of ways, right? You've been there, you've done it, the industry changes, and we'll all kind of, roll with that. But I think aligning, if I was going back in time, I would have loved to have had what happened, say, 7 years into my career happen day one, right? And that was just aligning with, someone again who knew more, did more, has been there, has run a business, just really allowed me to see all sides of the mortgage industry at that time, because I know at that time my confidence level rose tremendously. What probably would have taken me another 7 years to do, I did in 1 year, right? So it just sped up the learning curve. I got better, confidence got better. I was generating more partnerships because I felt better. I felt more confident, I guess that would maybe be the one thing would be really finding someone like, trust, and allow yourself to be guided and taught, and don't feel like you need to know everything day one.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, I know I've asked you a lot of questions. I want to give you one chance here at the very end to just speak your mind. I don't know if there's anything that hasn't been said or if there was something you would love to share, but I want to give the floor to you. So if there's anything on your mind, Chris, that you'd want to share with the audience, I want to give you a chance to share.
No, well, thank you, Connor, and again, thank you for having me on. Like I said, it's been a funny long time coming, and things work out in funny ways, and super happy to had the chance to connect with you. And right now our focus is pretty simple, right? To find people that are aligned with us, aligned with our way of thinking. You know, while I really care about the dynamic of the operations and how all that fits, right? When speaking to loan officers specifically, though, right, it's from we do it very much from a loan officer centric mindset, in the sense that we do need to drive those sales, and we'll have the operational efficiency that we need to facilitate that, right? So they feel good and we're getting things done. But right now, main focus of ours is we're growing with the right people. We want to find more of the right people. And just maybe real quick, one thing that opened my mind also during COVID, because I know we talked about during that period of time, is I recognized during that time, because we were forced for a period not to go to closings. And I was one of those people that always went to closings, right? You have to go to them. And I still go to them today when they're in the area and stuff like that. But it taught me one thing, in the sense that the world doesn't end if I'm not there, right? Business still goes on. You can handle the process to make sure the buyer's comfortable, everybody's good. The world needed to become a lot bigger, right? Because there was a period of time where we were doing business in literally the two counties here in New Jersey. It was Burlington and Camden County. It was sat there during COVID, like that COVID time, and going, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like, why are we getting 95% of our business in two counties in New Jersey? Right? Like the world is way bigger. Why am I licensed in all these states? Like for no reason? So not only are we expanding from getting business from different areas, but what we're also doing is looking to find those like-minded loan officers and branch managers in different pockets to be able to grow them out, get them on this platform, see the benefits of the platform that we've been talking about. So again, for us, that's a lot of the focus that we're leading with today.
Yeah. Well, hey, if it's all right with you, I'll share your email address in the notes of this show. And if anyone's interested in learning more about Grand Central Station,
Yeah,
Vivoto, the things we've talked about, and being a part of the team that you run, they can reach out to you. Would that be all right?
that would be awesome. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I want to say thank you for having, for joining the lowdown, being a part of this show, and just kind of sharing your unique perspective of what you've experienced in the industry, and just cheering you on, brother. Looking forward to the future.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you again, Connor.